Let's talk about AI. For the last 3 years, it's been the biggest story in business, right? But today we're asking the really tough question. Is all this investment, all this activity, actually making companies more money? We're going to dig into the latest global survey from McKinsey to get some real answers. Okay, so this is it. This is the question on everyone's mind. We see AI everywhere, but is it translating into real, measurable value? Is it hitting the bottom line? Well, as this new data shows, the answer is a lot more complicated than you'd think. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at just how widespread AI has become. Then we'll get to the heart of the problem, a surprising stagnation in results. After that, we're going to zero in on the small group of companies that are absolutely crushing it, uncover their playbook, and then wrap up by looking at what this all means for the future of work. First up, AI is everywhere. I mean, the scale of adoption is pretty mind-blowing, but there's a really important question just under the surface. How deep does this adoption actually go? Just look at this number. A massive 88% of companies now say they're using AI in at least one part of their business. That's a huge jump from just a year ago. So on the surface, it looks like a complete takeover. But that number doesn't tell the whole story. And this is where we get the real story. Look at this breakdown. 32% are just experimenting. Another 30% are only in the pilot phase. You add that up, and it means nearly 2/3 of companies are still just kind of dipping their toes in the water. Only a tiny 7% have fully scaled AI across their entire organization. And that distinction, it is absolutely critical. Which brings us to the central puzzle of this whole thing, the great stagnation. With all this activity, you'd think profits would be soaring everywhere, but that's just not what the data is showing us. So, where are the results? And here it is, the big reality check. Only 39% of companies report seeing any impact on their enterprise-level profitability from using AI. Let that sink in. For the vast majority, the AI revolution just hasn't hit the bottom line. And that disconnect between all the activity and the actual results, that's the great stagnation. Now, it's not all bad news. While that big picture profit impact is rare, companies are seeing some really positive signs in specific spots. Like 64% say AI is helping them innovate, and almost half are seeing happier customers. At the department level, you've got clear wins, like saving money in software development or boosting revenue in sales. These are all good signs for sure, but they just haven't added up to that big enterprise-wide transformation, at least not for most companies. So if most companies are stuck in this stagnation, who's actually winning? Well, let's meet the high performers. This is a super elite group making up just 6% of everyone surveyed who are getting incredible, transformative results from AI. They are the exception to the rule. So what makes this 6% so different? It all starts with their mindset. See, most companies focus their AI efforts on efficiency, basically cutting costs. But the high performers, they have a dual focus. Yeah, they care about efficiency, but they are equally, if not more, obsessed with using AI to drive growth and to create brand new innovations. It's a totally different level of ambition. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. A full 50%, half, of high performers say they're aiming for transformative change with AI in the next 3 years. Now compare that to just 14% of everyone else. That means they are 3.6 times more likely to have a genuinely bold vision. They aren't just trying to do the same old things a little faster. They're trying to fundamentally change the game. Okay, so we know what they're aiming for, but how are they actually pulling it off? Let's break down the specific strategies that make up the high performer playbook. The data points to 4 key things that really set these leaders apart. First, they don't just plug AI into their old processes. They completely redesign how work gets done. Second, their senior leaders are deeply and visibly all in. Third, they put their money where their mouth is, investing a lot more. And finally, they've mastered the art of combining AI with human smarts. Let's dig into each of these. First up, redesigning work. The high performers are nearly 3 times more likely to completely rethink and rebuild their business processes around what AI can do. See, other companies just try to automate one little task. These guys look at an entire process and ask, how can AI change everything? Next, leadership. And this is a huge one. High performers are 3 times more likely to have top executives who are actively championing and owning the AI initiatives. This isn't just some project for the IT department. It's a core strategic priority driven from the very, very top. This quote from McKinsey's Tara Balakrishnan just nails it. A bold vision from leadership isn't just a bunch of nice words. It creates real momentum. It gets the entire organization aligned, it unlocks the investment needed, and it generates the energy you need to push through all the hard work of transformation.
And that big vision? It's backed by serious cash. Over a third of these high performers are dedicating more than 20% of their entire digital budget just to AI. In fact, they're almost 5 times more likely than other companies to invest at this level. They aren't just playing around. They're making a massive bet that AI is the future of their business. So, finally, let's look at how this all ripples out and affects the future of work. Because as AI moves from these little pilot programs to full-scale production, especially in these high-performing companies, the effect on jobs is about to accelerate dramatically.
This table is really telling. Just look at the difference between what happened last year versus what companies expect to happen next year. Take knowledge management, for example. 21% of companies saw a workforce decrease last year, but a staggering 39% expect one next year. We're seeing this pattern everywhere. The pace of change is pretty much doubling. And here's the big picture for the entire organization. While most companies, 43%, don't expect to change, a really significant chunk, 32%, now believe their overall workforce will shrink because of AI in the coming year. This really suggests we're at a turning point, moving from just talking about job impacts to seeing real-world consequences. So, after going through all this data, what's the one big takeaway? It's this. Success with AI isn't really about just adopting the technology. It's about the ambition you bring to it. The massive gap between the stagnating majority and that top 6% is defined by 3 things: a bold vision, a willingness to redesign work from the ground up, and deeply committed leadership. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Look at your own organization or the companies you follow. Are they just using AI to make small improvements, to do the same old things a little bit better? Or are they trying to join that 6% club, using AI as a catalyst to completely transform what they do and how they do it? The answer to that question will likely decide who wins the next decade.